Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all participants. It is my privilege to introduce today's topic, which is Invoice Management System, which is to be made effective from 1st October 2024. As we all know, seamless passing on of ITC credit through invoice is the basic feature of a GST. In this regard, every effort has been made by the government so that the supplier and recipient are connected to each other and they can verify each other's bona fides. Yet another step in this direction is the present system being introduced. This will enable the taxpayer in matching of their records and invoices vis-a-vis those furnished by their suppliers. Now, this will allow the recipient taxpayers to either accept or reject an invoice or to keep it pending in the system for further verification later on. Once the suppliers save any invoice in GSTR1, IFF, or GSTR1A, the same invoice would be reflected in the IMS dashboard of the recipient. So therefore, you can see that this is a very useful system and it will enable automatic passing on of credit. And I would request all the taxpayers to familiarize themselves with this system so that they can make the maximum use of it. Without further ado, I would request Shri Reddy to carry on with the session. Thank you all.
Thanks for the wonderful speech and inaugural address. Now may I call upon Sri Sunil Ahmad, NEC member, AIF EGP Vice President of TPCA Tirupati, to deliver the guest address, please.
I'm audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. It's my privilege, sir, that I have been introduced as a speaker for this session of invoice management system, sir. So, as a representative of taxpayers for AFTP, it's a good measure taken by the government, sir, which should be has to become in early days. Anyhow, it is a good system which was, as GSTR 1A has been introduced, immediately government has introduced invoice management system, which will help the taxpayer to find out the ineligible ITC or the eligible ITC or the ITC which has to be reversed, which he can accept or he can reject, and he can rectify his GSTR 1. And if the GSTR 1 is filed on 11th of every month, which can be rectified and it can be rechecked, and again pending and acceptance can be verified, and 14th again he can rectify his GSTR 1, so that if any sales or purchases he has taken in a wrong way, that can be rectified with this system, sir. So it's a welcome system, and more seminars should be done on the system, sir. This is the first subject, and immediately the DGTS has taken the steps for explaining and regarding the system, sir. So I request Reddy sir to, because it is a new system, it should be conducted with the taxpayers, Chamber of Commerce, as well as the AFTP, sir, so that in detail we can have a good revise on this system, sir, which will be useful to the taxpayers, sir. Thank you very much.
Ahmadji, thank you so much for your kind of words appreciation towards department.
Yes.
Your suggestion should be taken to the appropriate forum for the suitable action in future.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And I call upon Sri Sumit Kedia, Member Economic Affairs Advisory Panel, CA Chennai, to deliver the guest address, please.
Yes, sir. Very good afternoon.
Yeah.
This facility of invoice management system, this is not new to GST. Right from the time of 1st July 2017, when GST was implemented, initially itself, from the model GST law, we had this concept of GSTR 1, 2, and 3. However, because of operational reasons and portal feasibility, the GSTR 2 and 3 were kept on hold, and instead GSTR 3B came in. So earlier also, initially when the law came in 6 years back also, there was this thought process that the invoices will be accepted or rejected in GSTR 2 by the taxpayer, and then he will file GSTR 3. Purchase, sales, and there were consolidated return for 1A, 2A. All these concepts were brought in 6 years back itself in the law. But however, because of operational reasons, couldn't be implemented. This gave scope for a lot of malpractices also, lot of miscompliances also, and lot of difficulties also, right? Both from the department side as well as for the taxpayer side. Just giving an example. So let's take water credit I take in a month in my GST returns. There is no facility to give an invoices breakup in my GST 3B returns. When the department does an assessment or an audit, or as a taxpayer, no one can know which invoices have taken a credit, which invoices have not taken credit. Because in 3B, there is only a summary which is filed. So, and from the taxpayer side also, it can be easily misused since there is no breakup given on invoices. Many times the credits which are not eligible to me, let's say fake invoices, credits, etc., which are ineligible, also comes in my 2B, because of which I am questioned on the eligibility of credit, and I have to justify that these credits are not availed by me in GSTR 3B, because there is no tool to check which credits I have taken, which I have not taken in 3B, because it's only summary tool. So definitely this system is a brilliant system, long awaited by taxpayers and the community at large. This system will definitely, I think, will reduce a lot of litigation and compliance and questioning, because there will be a lot of transparency which will come in the system because of this invoice management system. So a very welcome step, and I think from the taxpayer side, right from the time this announcement came in, definitely people are hoping that after this, there will be a lot of relaxation, or there will be a lot of easement in the compliance side from the input tax credit. That's it, sir. Thank you, and over to you.
Sumitji, thank you very much for your kind of words appreciation to our department. Our committee suggestions will take up to the appropriate forum for suitable action.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have come to the main topic, part of the program today. To make the topic presentation, we have with us a very distinguished person, the R. Sivasan sir, IRS Assistant Director Nation, Chennai Zone. Sir has a rich experience in the department. He is a recipient personal awardee for distinguished service and is well known as a reputed trainer in GST matters. So I call upon Sivasan sir to make the presentation, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your opportunity. So I think I should first be grateful to the Principal Additional Director General, DGTS, as well as the Additional Director General, NASAN, for providing me this platform, as well as consent to make this presentation. I hope that this scheme of things today that has been brought in will definitely help the trade fraternity in ensuring a seamless compliance with reference to GST, especially with reference to input tax credit availment, which is one of the USPs of GST. Let me make a small presentation here so that it is visually attractive also. And once this presentation is over, I'll be taking all the question and answers from the participants of this session. I have access to the chat box also. So anybody who requires clarity on this subject can type their questions in the chat box, and I will be able to answer the questions right away at any point of time, even if it is during the course of the presentation. So let me share the presentation here with reference to this invoice management system. Yeah. I hope the presentation is visible to everybody and my voice is also clear. The one line of confirmation will help me to proceed further. Sir, is it visible and audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. So what I will be talking today is a very important milestone as far as GST compliance is concerned, a facility that has been extended by the GST administration for managing the invoices, which are the key documents for assessment as well as for availing input tax credit. So it's called IMS Invoice Management System, and we will be seeing about the process and procedures associated with this new invoice management system. Hopefully, the objective of rolling out this invoice management system is for simplifying the GST compliance. At the same time, making the ITC available for all those stakeholders who are eligible for ITC, but for procedural difficulties, they are not able to avail this ITC. But after introduction of this system, I think that difficulty will be overcome. So what is in store? I think probably that is my first responsibility to explain to you what is in store as part of this presentation today. Probably the presentation might run for about 40-45 minutes. And as part of this presentation, I'll be explaining to you about the proposed scheme. What are the actions to be taken from the taxpayer's point of view? What are the advantages, not only to the taxpayers? Obviously, the system has been designed to facilitate the taxpayers, but the tax administrators also have certain advantages as far as this system is concerned. We will see what is the workflow and what is the process that happens on the portal, both at the front end as well as at the back end for officers to use this data for their analytics. So this holistically will be the objective and the presentation plan for today's session. Yes. Let me first of all explain to you what this scheme is all about. So this scheme is called as New Invoice Management System IMS, and it has been made available on the GST portal. And this will help the taxpayers obviously to manage their invoices either for the purpose of assessment or for the purpose of availing the input tax credit accurately and at the right time. This system will also allow the taxpayers to match their invoices with the other documents issued by the suppliers. And there are certain actions that are expected to be taken by the recipient of such supplies, either accepting or rejecting them as needed. There will be a seamless reconciliation process, and that will ensure greater accuracy and efficiency as far as compliances are concerned. And obviously, this has to be treated as a benchmark for taxpayers' convenience and experience, so that it brings down litigation with reference to one of the most disputed subjects under GST, which is the availability of input tax credit. So this scheme is likely to be launched from 1st of October 2024, not very far from today. And this facility will be made available for every registered person from 14th of October 2024, because it is generally, after filing GSTR1 by the supplier, the form GSTR2B is actually generated somewhere around 14th of the succeeding month of the tax period. So this time also on 14th of October 2024, all the taxpayers will be made available with this invoice management system with GSTR2B generated for that particular tax period. There is one very important misconception that is associated with that, which is does it add to the compliance requirement of the taxpayer? Already GST law is considered as legislation which has got heavy tax compliance requirements. But let me assure you that that misconception requires to be demystified, because it is not mandatory to take action under each and every invoice that gets populated in the IMS dashboard. No action means deemed acceptance. So that is the greatest advantage or benefit. Only if the taxpayer feels that he has to interfere with a particular transaction, then he requires either to reject it or keep it pending. Otherwise, it can be considered as accepted if no action is taken. So it does not add to the additional compliance obligation with reference to a taxpayer, which is a very important point. The scheme has been designed to ensure that the compliance level are kept at the lowest, but still the facilities are available. So this is one of the very important points that the taxpayers will have to understand. GSTR2B will be generated only on the basis of accepted or no action invoices. So if the invoice that is populated in the IMS dashboard is accepted, it goes to GSTR2B, or if no action is taken before generation of GSTR2B, then also the invoice goes to GSTR2B, but it will not go to GSTR2B if it is rejected or if it is kept pending. So if either of these two actions are taken, then it will not populate GSTR2B, but if no action is taken, it is treated as deemed acceptance, and it gets populated in GSTR2B via invoice management system. And also, let us also make one point very clear, that not all supplies that are populated in GSTR2B are available for input tax credit. It is only the eligible credits which are required to be taken in the electronic credit ledger, that is GST PMT02. And there are certain limitations which are associated with the eligibility of input tax credit, like blocked credits or credits which are used exclusively for exempted products, or credits which are credits on input services which are exclusively used for non-taxable supplies. So those credits are not available even if it is populated in GSTR2B. So GSTR2B may be populated with all invoices, but the action at our end can be restricted to the eligible credits. So just because it is populated in GSTR2B does not mean that all are becoming eligible credits. Right. So what is the facility that is available, and how do I access to this facility? So let me try to explain that. The access is on the common portal. We know that the URL for common portal is gst.gov.in. So any taxpayer who has got access to the common portal will have to log into the common portal with valid credentials. This invoice management system option is available as a post login facility, and it is not an open source information. Therefore, the fiduciary relationship that is there with reference to the data shared by the taxpayer with the department is also ensured. There is no pilferage of data or pilferage of information. It is working only in a closed loop, and therefore the security of the data that is provided by the taxpayer to the department is preserved. So after entering into the portal through the valid credentials, the taxpayer will have to go to the services tag, which is available. Sorry, the services tag, which is available here, and then to the return tag, and then the taxpayer will have to go to the invoice management system, which is available. Once clicking this invoice management system, two sections will open. One is the inward supplies, where the dashboard will facilitate viewing and acting all the inward supplies that are reported by the recipients, by the suppliers GSTR1 invoice furnishing facility, which is the document that is filed by taxpayers who have opted for QRMP scheme, quarterly return monthly payment scheme, or if a correction has been made in GSTR1 through form GSTR1A. So all these information will be made available in the inward supplies tag of the invoice management system. There is also another tab which is called outward supplies, which can also be viewed by the taxpayers, but that will be made available shortly. That has not been enabled so far. But what advantage that it gives is that the dashboard will help to view the status of the outward supplies that are reported based on the actions taken by the recipient, which shall be made available shortly. So what action that the recipient of supply has taken will also be viewed by the supplier, so that if the document is accepted or no action is taken and it has flown into the GSTR2B, or whether it has been kept pending by the recipient taxpayer, or whether it has been rejected. So what are the consequences of rejecting or keeping it pending? We will see in the subsequent slides. But what action has been taken by the recipient on the invoices that are populated in his invoice management system through the data that is furnished in GSTR1 invoice furnishing facility, and GSTR2A can also be viewed by the suppliers. So that is one very good advantage that the system will be able to provide as part of invoice management system. A very important alert is that the records where no action is taken by the taxpayer will be considered as deemed acceptance for GSTR2B generation. And therefore, no, as I initially said, this is not going to add any compliance, additional compliance obligation on the part of the taxpayer. Even if no action is taken on an invoice, it is considered that the transaction is licit and the taxpayer has accepted the population of such documents in his GSTR 2B. So this is a very important aspect as far as invoice management system is concerned. What is the process involved? The IMS will facilitate the taxpayer in matching of their records, invoices vis-a-vis the details or the documents issued by the suppliers, especially for the purpose of availing correct input tax credit. So we know that we have a lot of checks and balances that are associated with GST compliance, like we have e-way bill system to ensure that the goods on which the credit is taken has in fact been received by the taxpayers, which captures the trail of transaction with reference to movement of goods, or no e-invoicing facility is also there. Other than goods, services, assessments are monitored through e-invoicing. But all these will be facilitated, especially with reference to eligibility of input tax credit through this invoice management system. This functionality is to be considered as one of the major enhancement, especially as I said, no, in the input tax credit ecosystem for the GST registered taxpayers, because no, once it passes through the test of e-invoicing, it passes through the test of invoice management system. It means that there is a sovereign stamp that is associated with the eligibility of the transaction. The trail has been captured in the ecosystem. Therefore, there is limited scope for illicit input tax credit availability. Only accepted invoice by the recipients would become part of the GSTR2B to calculate their eligible ITC. So that will ensure that there is a check and balance that is provided both from the suppliers end as well as at the recipients end, and a self-policing mechanism has been ensured here. IMS will provide taxpayers an opportunity to review the genuineness and authenticity of the invoices received from the suppliers. And in case he finds that the GSTN number of the recipient has been misused, he has every scope to reject it so that the supplier becomes responsible to establish where the goods have gone. Once the supplier saves any invoice in GSTR1, invoice furnishing facility, or GSTR1A, the same will be reflected in the IMS dashboard of the recipient. It is not necessary that he will have to wait till GSTR1 is filed by the supplier. If the supplier saves the information in GSTR1, IFF, or GSTR1A, that gets auto-populated in the IMS dashboard of the recipient. That will help the recipient in taking action immediately upon its population in his dashboard. What actions are expected by the recipient? The recipient taxpayer can take any one of the 4 actions that are permissible by him. So if he feels that, yes, this supply has been made in accordance with the contractual obligations entered between the supplier, and that it is those goods or services which he has placed orders has been received, and if he feels that the transaction is genuine in accordance with the accepted norms, then he can accept the invoices that are populated. And once the invoice is accepted, then it goes into GSTR2B for him to decide whether credit has to be taken or not. If he finds that it is an illicit transaction, he has the option to reject the transaction. In such case, the information will flow back to the supplier and add it to his GSTR3 liability in case it is wrongly assessed. The taxpayer also has option to keep it pending. Like, no, he doesn't want to take the input tax credit in this particular tax period, because no, for one example, a trivial example which I can quote is that there are certain situations and circumstances where the invoices reach much faster than the goods or services per se. So invoices might come through electronic mode, whereas the goods will have to travel thousands of kilometers to reach the principal place of business, and ITC is eligible only after receipt of the goods. So in those situations, even though the invoice management system captures the information upon generation of GSTR1, he need not take it immediately. He can wait till he becomes eligible for taking credit, keep it pending. So he has to click the option pending, and subsequently any month succeeding to that tax period, once he is satisfied that yes, I am eligible for credit, he can accept the invoices and take it as credit. But only one aspect which has to be seen is that this pending invoices will have to be accepted before expiry of the limitations of time as prescribed under subsection 4 of section 16 of the CGST Act, which means that all the credit pertaining to a particular financial year will have to be taken before 31st of November of the succeeding financial year. Therefore, these documents can be kept pending till such time as allowed under section 16 subsection 4 of the CGST Act. And as I already told you, if no action is taken, it is treated as deemed acceptance, and therefore no, it automatically auto-populates GSTR 2B once GSTR 1 is filed by the respective supplier of goods or services. In case the supplier amends the details of the saved invoices in GSTR 1, I told that there is no necessity for a particular supplier to file GSTR 1 to get this IMS population, auto-population. Even though if he loads the information in his draft GSTR1 and saved such invoices in GSTR1, even prior to submission of GSTR1 in the common portal, the IMS of the recipient gets auto-populated. And in the meantime, if he makes any changes in GSTR1 before filing GSTR1, or even after filing GSTR1, if he amends the information through GSTR1A, the updated information is made available in the respective dashboard of the recipient for him to take further action. So, which means no, the action right from issuance of invoice, populating in GSTR1, amending it in GSTR1A, till the time GSTR3B is filed, this dynamicity is maintained, and it adds to the flexibility of the recipient to ensure that he takes the correct ITC finally when he files his GSTR 3B on the basis of GSTR 2B. So the action by the recipient as well as the action by the supplier are always kept dynamic. So any changes is instantly updated, and all the revisions are captured in the transaction till GSTR 3B is filed either by the supplier to ensure that GSTR 1 is finalized, or by the recipient where he decides, yes, this is the amount of ITC that I am going to take for that particular tax period. So these are definitely to be treated as the next level workflow which captures the trail of transaction on real-time basis. This is how a dashboard will look like once you enter into the invoice management system. I told you that there are two silos to that. One is with reference to inward supplies. The other one is with reference to outward supplies. So let us now see from the point of view of the recipient of supply. And therefore, no, I have to open this tab of inward supplies. The inward supplies, in fact, are divided into three silos. One is all the ITC that are made available. ITC can flow from a normal tax invoice with reference to B2B transaction, that is from a registered person to another registered person, or it can be amended invoice, it can be debit notes, amendment to debit notes, it can also be credit notes, in which case ITC may not be eligible, but still credit notes are also captured, amendments to credit notes are also captured. And of course, when there is a reverse charge mechanism, the self-invoice that is generated if transaction is through e-commerce operator under subsection 5 of section 9 of the CGST Act, and their corresponding amendments are also captured. And the second silo speaks about the flow of credit from input service distributors, where the credit flows from ISD. And third one is import of goods when bill of entry is filed. So there are certain situations where this bill of entry details may not be auto-populated in IMS due to operational reasons, but the facility has been made available so that at least in future as a way forward, all these are integrated and the data flows seamlessly from all possible resources. And the system also gives a hyperlink for each and every type of invoices, so that once the hyperlink is clicked, what is the type of invoice with possible actions details are also given. So this will help a taxpayer in computing their GSTR to be effectively for a particular tax period with reference to particular supply at micro level. If no action is taken, again it is treated as deemed acceptance and it gets populated in the GSTR 2B. The portal also gives search facility that is part of the functions that are made available. So once this invoice hyperlink is opened, as I showed you earlier, see here we see, let us assume that B2B invoices are to be checked for either acceptance, rejection, or for keep it pending. So we will be clicking this B2B invoices and subsequently moving on to this dashboard, which gives the complete information with reference to particular B2B transactions. You can see here that the details are given at micro level. In fact, the GSTN number of the supplier is available. The trade name of the supplier is also available. The invoice number is available. What is the invoice type, whether it is a regular invoice type or a deemed export type, or when the data flows from IceGate portal bill of entry details. So all these details are available. And as I said, there are three actions that are required to be taken: either accept, or reject, or kept pending. So these are the three actions that can be taken. And in this particular point, there is a search facility that has been made available. So the taxpayer can enter the keywords. If he knows the GSTN number, he can put the GSTN number and search for the invoices received from that particular GSTN number. Or he can use keywords in case he wants to search it taxpayer wise. Then also he can put the taxpayer's name and then search it. Or if he knows an invoice series number or an invoice sequence number, that can also be put and then searched. Or in case he wants to see only the transactions which are represented as deemed exports, or for that matter, if it is a regular supplier, so he can in fact search based on that keywords. So that is a great facility. This will help large taxpayers. In fact, if there are hundreds of invoices that flows into the invoice management system per day, it might be difficult for us to keep track of what transactions are happening. In case there is a reasonable belief that one particular transaction is not acceptable and requires to be rejected, so he can use this search facility, identify that particular invoice, and then go ahead when taking appropriate action, either to reject it or keep it pending till a clarity emerges. So this search facility again is a very, very helpful tool for the taxpayers to ensure that his GSTR2B is rightly auto-populated. Apart from that, they also have a facility called filter. This filter is a simple, intuitive tool, which has been provided in the functionality where the taxpayer can filter out the records either on the basis of the GSTN number or the trade name or the invoice number. So, or even the source of invoices, whether the invoice is a regular one or if it is a deemed export. So all these keywords can be given and the data can be filtered. And once if there may be a situation where a particular supplier's invoices requires to be kept in abeyance, like you cannot accept it in that particular tax period. You may have to keep it pending for certain action. So what you can do is you can select that GST and supplier's name through this filter, select them, and keep it pending, so that all the transactions with reference to that particular GSTN number for that particular tax period are kept pending. So this filter facility is also will be of great help to the taxpayers to ensure that the management is at micro level, which means it is at every tax assessment point, which is the tax invoices. So it can be at the tax invoice level where action can be taken either by search facility or by filter facility. And see, this is the sample screenshot which you will see once you enter into the portal. You can see that the GSTN number of the supplier is available. the trade name is available, the invoice number is available, and know what is the invoice type. That information is also available. What are the options of the actions that are likely to be taken, either accept, reject, or pending? Whatever action is required to be taken, those facilities are available. And there is also a choose button that is available. So the taxpayer can take action on a particular record by directly clicking either A, that is acceptance, or rejected, or keep it pending. So action can be taken. Obviously, when no action is taken, it is treated as deemed acceptance. Alternatively, the taxpayer can also select the specified records by clicking the checkbox from the respective documents or the records. And after selection, the taxpayer can either accept, reject, or keep the records pending. There is also a facility for bulk selection also. The select all records option can be taken. We can put how many records can be displayed in a particular page, which is with the option is available here. Records per page option is also available here. So you can select up to a maximum of 10 records per page, and then select all option can be done. Or you can also have all the records that can be selected so that one single stroke, either they can be accepted or rejected. So any action that is required can be done. Once these action points are completed, then there is an option to save. So the save button is made available here. Once the save option is given, then it helps in auto-populating GSTR2B of the recipient from the data that is provided by the supplier. And there is a facility that has been given to download this information in Excel file also, so that the analytics at the recipient end becomes much easier. Yes. How do one compute and generation of GSTR2B? Yes, this is the workflow that has been established. So let me explain to you what is the process that is involved. Generally, the system automatically generates GSTR2B on 14th of the succeeding month of the taxpayer. It auto generates GSTR2B. This draft will be final if no action is taken, because no action is treated as deemed acceptance, and that will be the final GSTR2B. But in case any action is taken for rejecting or for keeping it pending, then recomputation is required. If action is taken before filing GSTR2B, GSTR3B, GSTR2B is recalculated, and you have an option to recompute GSTR2B at any point of time between 14th of the month succeeding the tax period till GSTR3B is filed. So the taxpayer can navigate to GSTR2B, update the ITC, and then subsequently auto-populate GSTR3B. After final GSTR2B is generated. So action lies from that particular point of time when the supplier starts feeding the information in GSTR1, IFF, or GSTR1A, even prior to filing GSTR1. And action at the recipient starts once this information starts flowing in his invoice management portal. And as I've shown here, there is one button, compute GSTR2B. Once this button is clicked, the GSTR2B will be computed. This can be used any number of times. You can just keep on changing the decision with reference to acceptance, rejection, or keep it pending. And once that decision is revised, recomputation of GSTR2B will help in auto-population of GSTR2B with exact details. So this is the action that is expected to be taken by every taxpayer with reference to this invoice management system. What happens when amendment in GSTR1 is done through GSTR1A by the supplier? In terms of the recommendations made by the 51st GST Council meeting, a new facility called GSTR1A has been made available. GSTR1A helps every taxpayer in amending the information that is already filed with GSTR1 through GSTR1A, because there might be a situation where one assessment would have been inadvertently made wrong, or one invoice would have been missed because of oversight, and he wants to include it as part of his liability for that particular tax period. And during such situations where the liabilities are missed, or the information has been given wrongly, which requires to be corrected, GSTR 1A can be used, and that can help in auto population of GSTR 3B. So once these changes are made in GSTR 1 through GSTR 1A, IMS also gets updated with reference to such information. The ITC corresponding to the same will flow into GSTR 2B of the recipient, which can be generated by the taxpayer by recomputing. But all these things can happen only in the subsequent tax period. If there is a change that has been made in GSTR 1 through GSTR 1A, it will auto-populate GSTR 2B only in the subsequent month, any changes that has happened. So the credit can be taken only in the subsequent month. So this is one of the checkpoints that has been kept in case auto-population is through GSTR 1A. Changes can be made till the recipient taxpayer files his or her corresponding GSTR 3B. So maybe 20th, 22nd or 24th of the subsequent month of a particular tax period. This can be dynamic. And but as I said, no, 16.4 limitations will come. Any credit, any document that has been kept pending remains as pending only till the time limits prescribed under section 16.4, that is 30th of November of the succeeding tax period is not exhausted. And all invoices reported and saved by the taxpayer either through GSTR 1, IFF, or no GSTR 5 or GSTR 6 will be available in the IMS dashboard. That is like OIDAR or no GSTR 6, which means from the invoice input service distributor. All these things will be made available in the dashboard so that no, you can take actions on that. And in fact, the best part is that the supplier will also be able to see what action his recipient has taken with reference to invoices through his outward tab in the IMS portal. The recipient responsibilities at the time of generation of 2B, only the filed invoices or records by the supplier will be considered for computation of ITC. And it is based on the cutoff date, that is on the 14th of the subsequent month. And even after 14th, the recipient will be free to take action either to accept or reject. And it can be done even after the generation of the GSTR 2B, but till the filing of GSTR 3B. So that dynamicity is there. If the recipient taxpayer has no action, then whatever is the draft GSTR 2B that has been generated from the information of GSTR 1, it will be able to recompute or compute this GSTR 2B. But they will not be able to take any action after GSTR 3B is filed for the particular month. And till GSTR 3B is filed, GSTR 2B for the subsequent month will not be generated. So this is again a very important checkpoint that has been kept. So it becomes mandatory for every recipient of supply also to file a GSTR 3B so that for the next month, GSTR 2B is generated seamlessly. So this self-policing mechanism will help sequential filing of returns also. Just a quick outlook of what this workflow is all about. So I said that there are 4 possible actions that is pending at the recipient side once the IMS is populated with the data. After accepting the invoices, the data from IMS moves to GSTR 2B, and after 14th or after filing GSTR 1 by the supplier, whichever is earlier. So the data moves to GSTR 2B only when acceptance is done. No action, that is also treated as an acceptance, and it will automatically move to GSTR 2B. If it is rejected, when rejected invoices do not move to GSTR 2B and then they are removed from the IMS, the supplier knows that they are rejected and can modify if it is required. And kept pending does not move to GSTR 2B but remains the IMS up to the date in which the ITC can be availed, or if subsequent activity accepts the information. If no action is taken, automatically it gets removed from the IMS post after the expiry of 16.4 timeline. So this is very, very important. So anything that is with reference to previous financial year, even if it is kept pending, it cannot be kept pending beyond the time limits that are permitted under section 16.4. So ITC, which is time barred under section 16.4, will not be auto-populated in GSTR 2B after November of the succeeding financial year. And second very important aspect is like when there is an issue with reference to availability of ITC on place of supply, that information is also not made available in GSTR 2B through IMS. So these are some of the practical workflow as far as IMS portal is concerned. There is also one category of taxpayer who are called as QRMP optees, that is quarterly return monthly payment that is made by the taxpayers. What they do is they'll be filing their return quarterly, but will be effectively making their payments with reference to their liabilities on monthly basis. So such taxpayers, they will not be filing their GSTR1 on monthly basis. GSTR1 will be filed only on quarterly basis. But instead of GSTR1, they will be filing one document called Invoice Furnishing Facility. So Invoice Furnishing Facility also has got the same characteristics as GSTR1. So if IFF is filed, the GSTR2B of the recipient automatically gets populated through IMS at the same time. So for QRMP taxpayers, the IFF that is filed on 10th or 11th of the subsequent month will help in generation of GSTR2B of the recipient. But if the recipient is also a QRMP taxpayer, then GSTR2B for him is generated only on quarterly basis. It is not done on monthly basis. So if the supplier is a QRMP optee, then through invoice furnishing facility, the recipient gets his GSTR2B populated and the information is made available in the invoice management system. If the recipient is a QRMP optee, then it is not done on monthly basis. It is done only on quarterly basis, because for him GSTR2B is generated only on quarterly basis. So this distinction one will have to understand. What is the status of the taxpayer will decide how the IMS is populated. If the recipient is a QRMP optee, he will be getting GSTR2B only on quarterly basis, and therefore invoice management system will also be updated only on quarterly basis. So from what we have seen so far, we can in fact categorize the list of records and what action required to be taken either manually or in an automated manner. No action button, or there is nothing called no action button. If no action is taken, then such invoices or records where no action has been taken by the recipient, they will be treated as deemed accepted, and then they will automatically flow into GSTR2B for its generation. If accepted, again, the data will go into 2B and then will auto-populate 3B. If rejected, records will not be considered for GSTR2B generation. ITC will be rejected and the data will not be updated in GSTR3B. These records will not be considered like no pending. Whatever is kept pending will not be considered for that particular tax period in GSTR2B generation. But the same will be carried forward in the invoice management system itself for further action in the subsequent tax periods. Such records will remain in the IMS dashboard till such time when they are accepted or rejected, or when 16.4 actually expires. So credit can be taken at a date, but not later than the time that is prescribed under section 16.4, and therefore it cannot be carried forward beyond the time limit of 16.4. So amendment in GSTR1 through GSTR1A, I have in fact anticipated these following scenarios that could possibly expect an action to be taken with reference to such documents. So if an original invoice is uploaded where the tax credit availability is about 100 rupees, when you accept it, it goes into GSTR2B and 100 rupees can be taken as credit. If you reject it, credit cannot be taken as ITC. If it is kept pending, ITC is delayed but can be taken in the subsequent month. So this is as far as original invoice is concerned. If it is an original debit note, which means the price or has been revised and additional liability has been created. And if the supplier has paid this 5 rupees additional liability on account of raising a debit note, then upon acceptance, 5 rupees credited will accrue to the recipient. And no, he cannot take, if it is rejected, he cannot take credit, or if he keeps it pending, ITC is delayed. Third is amendment to the original invoice, either upward amendment or downward amendment. If it is an upward amendment, if the original invoice is accepted for 100 rupees, then if the additional liability is 10 rupees, then on the basis of this payment of tax of this 10 rupees, which is in addition to the 100 rupees which has already been paid, if it is accepted, then 10 rupees can be taken. But let me make it one point very clear. If the original invoice was rejected, now is the time for him to take this 110 rupees. I think I have already answered what Mr. Hemant has asked. Once the recipient selects an option, can it be deselected again? So it need not be deselected. In fact, it can be revised till such time GSTR 3B is filed. So here is a case where if the original invoice is rejected earlier for 100 rupees because it requires 110 rupees. Now is the time for him to take credit as 110 rupees. There will not be any difficulty. Similar is the situation with reference to downward amendment also. So the point that I would like to drive here is till such time, when GSTR 3B is filed for a particular tax period, any action can be undone and then redone also. There is absolutely no issues about that. There is also one reset button which is available, which will annul all the actions that was taken previous to that, and a fresh option is also given to the taxpayer, which I will be showing in the subsequent slides. Pending action not allowed, no original credit note or upward amendment of credit notes, downward amendment with reference to credit notes, all these things will not facilitate input tax credit, and therefore no action will be permitted on these documents. So the summary of actions that is expected here is that, so this is the screenshot which I would like to show you. Like you can see here that after completion of all the actions that is expected by the recipient of either no action or accepted or rejected or kept pending, we can see that heading wise, invoice wise, document wise, there will be a summary that will be generated by the IMS portal. So at that particular point of time, it gives a complete statistics of the number of documents on which no action has been taken, or the number of documents on which has been accepted, which has been rejected, or kept pending. So if you can see here in this first line, B2B invoices, there are about 18 invoices which represents B2B invoice transactions, in which for 6 invoices, no action has been taken. For 4 invoices, it has been accepted. 5 invoices have been rejected, and 3 invoices have been kept pending, which means out of these 18 invoices, 10 invoices, that is no action 6 and accepted 4, will automatically go into GSTR 2B. Rejected will not go into GSTR 2B. Whichever is kept pending can be will be migrated to the next month's invoice management system. At that particular point of time, an action can be taken with reference to those invoices. So this is a complete summary of actions that is taken by the recipient with reference to the data that flows into the IMS of the recipient. And finally, you have this button called compute GSTR 2B, which will facilitate all the actions that are taken here. So this summary will be taken cognizance of, and then final GSTR 2B will be computed. And as I said, there is also something called a reset button that is available. So you can in fact click this button to reset all the actions that were taken and saved by the recipient. Or you can also select a particular transaction like this. You can select a particular transaction and then reset that particular action. See, for instance, you can select this serial number 5, where if you have already accepted it, you can in fact reset and then say that it has been rejected. So that is also permitted. And once a final action is taken, it can be saved and the entire document can be downloaded as an Excel file for the taxpayer to do an analysis. So this is all what we have seen is from the perspective of the recipient of supply, where he has to take certain actions. Then I also showed you at the first instance in the first slide that there are two silos to this. One is the inward supplies, the other one is outward supplies. So outward supplies are also now will be made available to the taxpayer. The taxpayer as a supplier can select a financial year, and then he can go on to select the return period also, and then search what has happened. It will list out all the B2B supplies reported in GSTR1 invoice furnishing facility or GSTR1A. So those information will in fact be displayed, and with reference to each and every document that has been filed and has passed through GSTR1, GSTR3B, IMS, GSTR2B and GSTR3B of the recipient. If this workflow is completed, the universal view of B2B transactions in GSTR1 can be seen. Here you can see the number of records that were on which subsequent liability has been added, or number of records which has been rejected by the taxpayer, or whatever action that has been taken by the taxpayer can be viewed once these hyperlinks are clicked. So that will help the taxpayer to identify what action his recipient has taken with reference to his invoice. So this Excel file in fact gives complete details with reference to all the tables like 4A, 4B, 6, which deals with exports and B2B transactions, SEZ transactions, deemed export transactions. So document wise, if there is an upward amendment or a downward amendment through credit notes or no deemed acceptance, so all these information will be available as an Excel data once this is downloaded as an Excel file. So wherever there is no action, it means it is deemed acceptance and it gets auto-populated to the GSTR2B. There are certain key points which a taxpayer will have to understand with reference to the IMS. Let me once again recollect whatever I had told so far. One is with reference to deemed acceptance. At the time of filing GSTR2B, a record will be considered as deemed acceptance when no action is taken in the IMS dashboard. It is mandatory to recompute GSTR2B in the IMS dashboard in case there is any change of action that has already been taken on the concerned record, or the action has been taken after 14th of the month, that is the generation of draft GSTR2B. So this is very important. Before draft GSTR2B is generated by probably 14th of the succeeding month after the GSTR1 has been filed by the supplier. So in case the GSTR2B requires to be recomputed on the basis of the action that are taken by the recipient, like accept or reject, that requires to be recomputed. Otherwise, the original draft GSTR2B alone will sustain. And third is the inward RCM supplies. The data flows from table 4B of GSTR1, and where the ITC supplies are not eligible, then either on account of 16.4 or on account of the place of supply rules, that will not be populated in IMS. Records flow in IMS at the time of saving of record by the supplier, and the recipient can take action on such records, and it will have to be saved for recomputing GSTR2B. All records will be populated in GSTR2B after filing one IFF and IA of the supplier, and all accepted and deemed accepted records will move into GSTR2B. Rejected records will move out of IMS dashboard, and accordingly GSTR3 will be generated. Pending records, as I said, will remain till it is accepted in the future months. It is mandatory to take action on original record and file the GSTR3B before taking action of the amended record. When the original and amended record belongs to two different GSTR2B return period, if both belongs to the same GSTR2B period, only the amended record will be considered for ITC calculation. But if it transcends across two different tax periods, then the record that is done at a later stage alone will be considered for computation of GSTR2B. Any change that is made in the record, as I said, by the supplier also, you can in fact reset the record, and then the dashboard GSTR2B can be generated with accepted information. One very important point where the self-policing mechanism has been kept into place, GSTR2B will be sequential. The system will generate GSTR2B for a particular return period only if GSTR3B of the previous return period is filed. Otherwise, no, it will not be generated. So that is a difficulty. GSTR, there has to be a disciplined filing of returns. Otherwise, this facility may not be available. The liability of a supplier will increase in GSTR3B for subsequent tax periods if the invoice has been rejected by the recipients in the IMS, especially for transactions involving credit notes. So that will also be will have to be considered. I think I have answered one more question: how rejection of receipt will affect the liability of the supplier. So in case of credit notes where there is a downward revision or upward revision, the liability at the supplier's end gets a little altered. Some of the FAQs which I thought will be useful to each one of you is, when will the IMS be available for the taxpayer? It will be available from 1st of October. What happens if I reject an invoice in the IMS? If an invoice is rejected in the IMS, it will not be included in GSTR2B for calculation. The supplier's liability will be adjusted in the subsequent GSTR3B based on the rejection, which means that probably the supplier has not been affected or it is not with reference to my transactions. Can I take action on an invoice after GSTR2B is generated? The answer is yes. You can still accept, reject, or keep the invoice pending after GSTR2B is generated. But all these actions will have to be taken before GSTR3B by the recipient is filed. What if the supplier amends the invoice? That is also taken cognizance of, which I have explained to you. If the supplier amends the invoice after you have taken action on it, then amended invoice will replace the original invoice, the IMS, and the recipient also has the flexibility to take a fresh action on the amended information. What if I do not take any action on an invoice? I have repeatedly said that no action means deemed acceptance, and it will be included in computation of GSTR2B as an eligible ITC that can be decided by the taxpayer. Can I keep the invoice pending indefinitely? The answer is no. It is controlled by the limitations of the timelines prescribed under Section 16(4) of the CGST Act, that is 30th of November of the subsequent financial year. Are there any transactions that are excluded from IMS? Yes, you can still accept, reject, or keep the invoice pending after GSTR2B is generated, but it has to be before. The answer to question 7 shall be yes. There are certain transactions which are excluded from IMS at present. The data from IceGate portal may not be auto-populated instantly, so it might take a little bit of time, but still it has been perceived to auto-populate the export and import data from the IceGate portal into the IMS portal directly, and certain information with reference to OIDAR also may not flow seamlessly at present. So those information also might get delayed. So, and from IMS, as I said, those invoices which are beyond the 16(4) limitations, or those which are struck by POS limitations, or when there is an upward or downward revision by raising a credit invoice, those are excluded from IMS. So I think this answer should be considered wrong. How does IMS affect the generation of GSTR2B? If IMS ensures sequential filing of GSTR2B, meaning that 2B for a new return period will be generated only if the 3B of the previous return period is filed. So these are some of the FAQs probably that that will help us to understand the entire scheme of things. So this is all about IMS. The final last question is, having said about what this IMS is all about, what are the objectives, what is the workflow, and how the data is auto-populated from one return or a statement to another return or a statement. what does it mean for a taxpayer? What does it mean for GST authorities? So I think this will help us to understand how beautiful the system has been created. As you know, it was said during the introductory speech by one of the speakers, Mr. Sumit Kedia, where we did not put in place GSTR2 and GSTR3B, which in fact envisaged these type of self-policing mechanism. But now, with the introduction of IMS, I think that dream has been realized in a limited manner. The IMS depicts a transformation in tax filing process that requires a taxpayer to adopt and align with the new operationality that will help them with legal protection. IMS for tax authorities, you will have a very clear and reliable system to track ITC, which is directed for future automation and other opportunities. And if the data is clean, then AI-driven analysis will also can be undertaken by the tax officers, and that will bring down the dispute resolutions in a much better manner. And in future also, automated dispute resolution can be made one of the dreams that can be realized. The new advisory shows that there will be a complete overhaul in the tax filing procedure with sequential introduction of return filing process. So unless GSTR 3B of the previous month is filed, 2B of the succeeding month cannot be filed. So that puts a checks and balance in the entire ecosystem. And we will have to accept that sometimes it is a little tough for a transition. However, it is quite important to adopt to the raising statutory environment, and all these are made only with an intention to ensure that the litigations with reference to input tax credit, litigations with reference to fake invoices, litigations with reference to wrong assessments, and also litigations with reference to fake registrations are also put to rest because of this automated process. And finally, the move can make way for forthcoming advances in GST system with AI integration and rectified fraud deduction. That will definitely help in cleansing the system and definitely improve the ease of doing business from the taxpayer's point of view, and also will help the tax authorities to do a compliance verification mechanism in the intended objective. So with this, let me complete this presentation. What we saw is the proposed scheme, the proposed workflow process, action to be taken, a few FAQs, and also we saw the screenshots how the system work, how the system will look like when you enter into the portal, so that you can have a sort of a feel-good factor when you enter. All will not be Greek and Latin. We also saw what are the advantages both for the taxpayers as well as for the tax officers who are administering this. I hope this invoice management system will cleanse the system, ensure that fake ITC credits and fake registrations are a thing of past, and also it brings in a lot of credibility with reference to dispute resolution mechanism. So I stop my presentation here. I am privy to some of the questions that were given in the chat box. I'm able to see that. I've already answered a few questions there. One final question is about if the supplier rejects the IMS, what is the impact on the recipient in the portal? The supplier cannot reject it here because it is the invoice management system at the recipient end. So the recipient, in fact, will have to either accept, reject, or take no action. So there is no question of the supplier rejecting the information. If the supplier raises his invoice and subsequently cancels the invoice, either if it is done, if it is an e-invoice, it has to be cancelled within 24 hours, or he can keep it outside GSTR1 IFF, or GSTR1A can also be used. That is from the supplier's end. Whatever three actions which I suggested or proposed here, that is accept, reject, or keep pending, is at the recipient's end. So that will not have any impact on the IMS with reference to the recipient. So with this, I conclude my presentation here. If there are any further questions, I think officers from DGTS can moderate and throw the questions. So I'll try to answer those questions. Thank you very much once again to DG systems, especially the principal ADG, DG systems, and also the Additional Director General Nasan Chennai for creating this platform and help me in sharing that information with all the participants of today. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Sir, sir, thank you very much for your presentation. It has thrown a lot of light on the subject and it clarified a lot of doubts to the participants, particularly for taxpayers. So there are some questions in the chat box. I think sir answered one or two. One more is there, sir. If supplier rejects the IMS, what is the impact on the recipient in the portal? Question from one Jyotika.
Yes, sir. I think there are, to my knowledge, there are 5 questions. Out of the
Yes,
5
sir.
questions, I think I've answered all the questions during the course of this presentation.
Yes, sir.
Let me recap if it is required. How rejection from the receipt will affect the liability of the supplier. See, if I find that my GSTN has been misused and that is the reason for my rejection, probably it will affect the supplier. Once the receipt selects recipient, I think I should read as recipient. Once the recipient selects an option, can it be deselected again? In fact, this also I have answered any number of times before filing GSTR 3B by the recipient. The IMS portal can be changed either from accept, reject, or keep pending. All it has to be done is if any change has been done in the IMS portal, then GSTR 2B will have to be regenerated, right? So that is very important. There is a flexibility to jump from one option to another option, even if it is done on the portal, but before filing GSTR 3B. What about imports and exports? Obviously, those documents will also be captured. There is a facility that is envisaged for inter-portal connectivity between IceGate portal or IceGate ecosystem and GSTN ecosystem. We have already established that, because of which the data from IceGate portal have started flowing into the GSTN portal, and therefore IMS system will also embrace that, and that will be made available. If the supplier rejects the IMS, what is the impact on the recipient in the portal? I think IMS has got no relevance to the supplier with reference to accept, reject, or keep it pending. It is only at the recipient sense. So I hope I have also answered all these questions, and for the sake of benefit of those who asked these questions, I have repeated the answers again. If still there are some questions, they may be shared in the chat box. I'll be glad enough to answer them.
Sir, no questions raised as of now. They will
Yes.
move on to vote of thanks. I thank everyone who joined the webinar and my ADG, DGTS and Srivasan sir to give the subject and members who gave lecture. I thank one and all for these sessions. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.